about asking good questions and effective questions in interviewing.
Yeah. There's a man named John Sawatsky who used to work at ESPN, and he's an interview expert, and he really changed my outlook, and he helped me a lot. And I think that there's two things. I think that number one, as a human being, you need to be someone who can be in a room and kind of read the energy, right? I think that like you have to figure out a way to, make yourself part of the atmosphere that you're in so that, you can do your job asking questions like an outsider, but from a place where your presence, while not different, you're obviously there to get information and everybody knows that, but you're kind of fitting in within the energy of the room. And then the second thing is that your listeners can go look up Sawatsky's methods. I mean, they're very basic and they're very smart, and they're based on asking lean, open, and neutral questions. And not only do they work, it's not that you're always going to get the answer you want, but it gives you the best odds of getting the best answer. And especially with someone like Belichick, where you ask questions, how do you do this? Why is that? Why do you do this? He may answer it however he answers, but if you're injecting your own thought process into his life's work, the chances are you're going to say something stupid that he's going to react to.
Right.
So you really just want to get information from someone like him or anybody, and then figure out what you do with it later. And I'll never forget another thing about Sawatsky that I really appreciated and have learned is, the importance of, when you're trying to recreate scenes or learn about something, the importance of going in chronological order. Because once you get someone in the moment, it's very, you're in a good environment to get a lot of good information. And I remember I did this story years ago on this football player named Albert Hainsworth, and he went into a blind rage during a football game, kicked off an opponent's helmet and stomped him on the face twice, ended up getting suspended. So I ended up spending all this time with him trying to figure out what was going through his mind in that moment. What is it like for these people who kind of struggle with this, systematic violence of the NFL and whatnot. And I worked with John on my questions when I was trying to learn the sequence of events in that game that led him to lose his mind like that. And we got to the point chronologically where I was right where he kicks off the guy's helmet and lifts up his foot. And I'll never forget, Sawatsky asked me to say, he said, you should ask him right there, when his foot is raised, what were you trying to accomplish? And I was like, holy cow. I mean, what kind of, that's a question, man. I mean, you're talking about hitting pause right there with the guy's foot in the air and about to stomp on this other guy's face. What are you trying to accomplish? And if you ask that out of context, you would get a completely different answer than you do when he's taking you through what's in his mind and leading you to that point. And so, that was one of those moments, but I think your listeners can really just look up John Sawatsky's methods and try to learn from them, because I think he's one of those guys that I think really has helped me in my career. And when I think about interviewing techniques and what works and what doesn't, almost all the time when I have an interview that I think went well, it's because I adhered to a lot of his tenets.
I love that you brought up Sawatsky. He's in every class I've ever taught. We go through his interview methods. I got him introduced to me by an editor before he was at ESPN, who shared a piece that I think was in CJR about him. And yeah, just the lean questions alone, where you don't put in, another example of that is you don't say, Coach Belichick, were you frustrated at the officiating today? Because then he latches onto that word frustrated. You go, how did you deal with the officiating today? And that takes him out of lean, that opens it up rather than closing it off to a word.
Yeah, you want to say, what'd you think about the officiating?
Right.
Or whatever it is. What'd you think about that call?
Yeah.
But and the other thing is it forces you to listen. And I think that leads to better material in the moment and down the road, because at the end of the day, we forget our jobs are to listen. And if they're reacting to your thoughts all the time, you're not listening. You're kind of injecting your point of view, and then it's like your questions are becoming crash test dummies, rather than, trying to learn what's going on inside someone's head and what their thought process is. And I think that's why it makes so much sense. It forces you to listen, and then it makes asking follow-up questions easier. Well, why do you think that? Why did you say that? Why did you do that? What were you trying to accomplish when your foot was in the air?